What does it mean to create the life you want? From the spiritual perspective, of course. Watch this video and find out. When we think of creating the life we want, we tend to focus on the personality, not the soul. The soul energy, the higher frequency, harmonious energy that is always part of the universal reality, that is interconnected and is in oneness, has a very different view on creation than the personality has. Let's examine those two views. So, from the personality, what does it mean to create the life that you want? It usually means that we get what we want from the ego perspective, right? Personality is the ego. So the ego self, with all its lower self issues and defenses and fears, decides, my life will be better, I will be less bothered, I will get stuff that helps me to feel more comfortable, or I would end up loving myself more because certain conditions that I have created for that will be met. If I have all that happen, then I have the life that I want. And you can see how very quickly we will run into a problem, right? The reason for that is obviously because the higher frequency perception is not always going to agree with whatever the personality wants, and quite often it's the opposite. The reason we have things that we are frustrated about or annoyed about or are struggling with is because we have not learned the lesson yet. And in order for us to move on to the next level of consciousness, we actually have to finish the lessons that we have created. All those lessons are there because we put them there. How did we do that? Not us as a personality, obviously, because personality would really rather not have those lessons, right? Who put them there? Some big bad parent? The universe? It's the soul creative method of awakening to the next level of consciousness. We progress on the ascension stairway by fulfilling certain requirements, the steps of conscious comprehension that move us from the separation perspective, the perception of reality as us and the universe being apart, to the next level of consciousness where we join into the universal community, we become one with the universe without losing the individuality of the soul self. But the personality, which is the avatar inside the simulation, inside the classroom, does have to eventually go. That is not the soul self. So when the avatar kind of gets programmed with this idea that, oh, I'm supposed to get to the next level of something, and that means getting more of what I want, and I want this, this, and that based on my beliefs, and those beliefs are limited, we only end up getting trapped. We end up actually creating the life that we don't want, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we are resonators. We broadcast out from our system into the universe whatever it is that we believe in. So if we end up believing the patterns that are negative, which means the lesson is not learned, we are going to keep attracting those very lessons, which means the ego personality is definitely not going to be getting what it would like to be getting. And to help ourselves actually match what the soul desires, that means we have to, in a sense, get out of the way. We have to actually build a bridge between ourselves and the higher self soul component of who we are. That's why it is so important to do this work consciously. You know, people say like, well, why should I bother with all this higher self processing and everything? Can I just feel love and everything is fine? Yes, you sort of can feel love. And there are moments when the soul kind of pushes the personality out of the way. And then, wow, we have this incredible, amazing moment of connectedness. But if you notice, those moments come very few and far between, usually 1 or 2 in a lifetime. That is because they are not earned by our conscious process. They are sort of a gift. gifts that come from the soul saying, okay, I'm going to try to help out this avatar and wake him or her up to the idea that there's something bigger than whatever it is that he or she is stuck in, by giving them the experience of this incredible connectedness energy. Wonderful. But then we actually have to do the work to get again this type of an experience. And it is possible to live in that state of connectedness all the time. But that means we have to start seeing everything in our life from the perspective of the higher self soul, not from the perspective of ego or the lower self. Remember the totem pole that I always mention? We have the body on the bottom, then we have the lower self, our fears and defenses, then we have the ego, the regular operating personality. It increases in frequency and harmony. Then we have the observer component. That is the part that is sort of neutral and just able to view and witness whatever it is that's going on in our lives, externally and internally. Then the next spot, that will be occupied by the higher self. That is our wisdom. That is all the lessons that we have amassed. This is the conscience. One person knows that this is just the right thing to do, not based on their ego selfish desires, but on something bigger. That's higher self energy. And above that is the soul. So all that higher frequency that then unites with the God source, the universal intelligence, builds the soul self. That is an individual which then can create their existence, not anymore life really, if that being is not incarnate, or a life if one is inside the body. When the personality is snipped, sort of separated from the higher component of itself, so there's a body, lower self, and ego, and then kind of nothing, the observer part does not exist, and then there is a higher self and soul, then it feels to us like something beyond our control is making us do things, or forcing events into our life, or making something happen that we are in resistance to, because we don't comprehend it, and it definitely feels like we have not created it. When in reality, we did. It's just the self here is the higher part of ourselves that we're disconnected from. That's why doing personal work is so important. It clears up the lower beliefs that block this connection. It builds the observer component of a personality. Without observer, nothing is possible. Observer is sort of essential. It's almost like self-love. We have to have self-love and we have to have observer. Without those two things, we cannot move on into oneness. Not possible. Because we will be automatically limited by the perception of separation. If we want to create the life that we want, the we in that sentence, I want to create life, I is the higher self soul, and I always create the life that I need in order for me to learn and arrive to the next level of consciousness. That always happens. It is automatic. So what I then need to do is work with the lower components of myself, which would be the ego and the lower self and the body too. Body genetics could very much be in resistance. And learn to clean up attachments and demands. The more we clean up attachments and demands, the more we're going to arrive to this amazing state of living the life that we want to live, because it will be more harmonious. Most people really don't want stuff. They don't want things. When they think of the life they want, it's not about stuff. They might be assuming it is, because that's the pictures that they were programmed to believe that that's what they need. But really, if you start digging in, what you're going to find out is each person who wants something is after experience of what that thing or that event will bring them, what they would feel like on the inside. They're not after stuff or external activity. They are after internal. So we all want to experience something internally that is more harmonious and beautiful and is in connectedness with the universal energy. But in order to actually get there, all we got to do is step out of the way without self-erasure. That means be aware of what your desires are from the lower self, what your fears are. Be aware of what your programming is. Work with it, process it, self-investigate, self-study. Do whatever it is that it takes to figure yourself out. Which could be through sitting in silence and listening to yourself, which could be asking yourself questions. Asking, why do I do this? Why do I believe that? Challenging your own beliefs. So know yourself, know your issues, but at the same time know that there is a bigger part of you that is automatically in harmony. And then that part pretty much is looking to experience different things in order to get to the next level of itself. And the part of us that is in separation needs to be able to have desires, but not have attachments to those desires. If we do that, then those two parts have a bridge. They can talk to one another. So then the soul desire for awakening becomes a personality's desire for awakening. They sort of share the same idea. It's just the personality might have a different view on how to get there than the soul does. But that's okay if you're open to the fact that soul probably knows better. So then you're more focused on your own broadcast and what you're putting into the world instead of being focused on getting what you want. That's how we create the life that we want. If you're watching this video on anything other than my Transcension Gate website, please visit, sign up for my email updates so you don't miss any of the videos. There's new information coming in all the time, and you can get the support for your own spiritual journey and living the life that you want. Be love. Be free. Be God.